I'm going to take a deep breath and I want to welcome everyone to the morning huddle for Friday, February 10th of 2023. And I'm really excited about today. I'm always excited on Fridays when it's the huddle time. And but today we have a very special guest. His name is Eddie Rodriguez, and he's an inspirational speaker and life coach based in South Florida. His search for meaning and purpose in life has endowed him with great insight and clarity that he now shares with other people. He's spoken before numerous groups in Florida, as well as Los Angeles, Oregon, and North Carolina. He has appeared on Bravo, MTV, Lifetime, and many other media channels. And Eddie has emerged as one of Miami's most sought after speakers and life coaches. And today, he's going to help us understand what I like to call the inner game of business, right? Because we know the outer game, the getting grants, right? Getting your books in order, the technical aspects of running a business. But as a coach myself, I can tell you that what I find is our biggest challenge is the inner game, right? Showing up with the right mindset, etc. So without further ado, please help me welcome Eddie Rodriguez to the Morning Huddle.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Danilo, for having me as a guest on this wonderful platform. And I am really inspired listening to everyone's story and looking forward to continuing a relationship with the Morning Huddle and also learning from all the business folks out there. My focus is mainly, like Danilo said, mindset, and more importantly, your why for doing what you do. I'm the guy that folks come to me sometimes after running very successful businesses, but they're a little empty inside or they're burnt out. And so they come to realize that all this work that they've done has failed to produce the results that they ultimately wanted. And so I've realized and I've learned throughout the years, and some of you may have heard, there's a paradigm called the be, do, have paradigm. And the be, do, have, those three words get interchanged. And most of us, we fit under one of three categories. We're either a victim, a worker, or a winner. Some of us have forgotten that we are human beings and consider ourselves to be human doings because our focus is on doing, never really giving thought to who we're being while we're doing what we're doing. And I've found throughout the years, 25, 26 years that I've been engaged in this work, that who you're being is most important. Are you being genuine, authentic, and in integrity with who you know yourself to be? It is no secret that every act is an act of definition. You let me and the world know who you are by what you do and who you're being while you're doing what you do. And so very, very quickly, folks that fall under the category of being considered a victim arrange their life with have, do, be. When I have enough time, enough money, enough support, I'll do the things that I've always wanted to do, and then I'll get to be happy. That seems to work for some people until they learn that then there's the worker, the do, have, be. I'm going to do what I think I need to do, because the more I do, the more I'll have, the happier I'll be. And what I say to folks, consider that everything we ever do is in order to be something. So a very intelligent person once said, well, why don't we switch and start with be, do, have. I'm going to be who I think I would be after I did and had whatever I need to do or have. And so some folks will say to me, well, I can't just be successful. I just can't be happy. I just can't be fulfilled if I'm not. And I say to them, we have, as human beings, a great gift, and that is the gift of imagination. So imagine what it feels like if you would be successful, if you would be happy. When folks are able to do that, from that place of beingness, they then do the things and have the things that beingness has in their lives. I'll give you a short example. I worked for AT&T for 25 years. And I did the thing called go to work every day. Every day I did my work, 8, 10, 12 hours, came home. I got paid really well. I made a lot of money, but I was kind of empty inside because I didn't know who I was supposed to be. I happened to read a book and I made the decision that I was going to still do the same work that I did every day, but be who I wanted to be while doing the work. Everything switched for me. Everything switched for me where I actually walked away after 25 years and then started to do what I do now. I'm also an ordained interfaith minister and a personal development coach. Those two positions reflect who I've decided to be. And so now, yes, I make money, but I'm also fulfilled because I get to express who I know myself to be. The formula for success is asking, who must I be? What must I do so that I can have whatever it is that I want to have? And I've worked with a lot of folks throughout the years who, again, they do everything they think they're supposed to do in order to get, to have, to be, and sometimes they don't. And so at the end of all this doing, they feel empty, they feel dissatisfied, they feel burnt out. And if everything that we do, just consider for a moment, why do you do the thing called go on vacation? To be relaxed. Why do you do the thing called go to work? Perhaps to be successful, to be secure. Everything we do in order to be something. If we start with beingness, we're already ahead of the game. So while you're doing what you do, who are you being while you're doing what you're doing? I've said to folks sometimes, have you ever met someone who does the thing called practice medicine? Yes. Are they being a healer while they're doing the thing called practicing medicine? Some folks will say no. I've gone to restaurants and I've had people do the thing called wait on tables or serve you, but are they being a server while they're doing what they're doing? If you start to notice, not everyone's state of being matches what they're doing. When they do, then you can consider yourself to be successful. Because at the end of the day, we are human beings, not human doings. And sometimes we get too bogged down in doing in order to get, in order to have, in order to be, and it doesn't happen. But if you start with, this is who I know myself to be, this is who I choose to be, and because I am this person, I'm going to do the things that this person does, and I'll have the things that this state of being does. Does that make any sense?
Yes. No, wow. I had never heard that paradigm before, Eddie. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. So be, do, have, and the mindset of victim, worker, winner.
Yes.
Wow.
And again, this is something we're never really taught. We're taught do, work hard, do to make money. And like what we shared on our first conversation, when I'm asked to speak in front of small businesses, I always tell the folks, I'm going to ask you a question. Based on your answer, I get to fire you. Not really, but let's pretend. And so the question I ask, whether it's realtors, mortgage folks, whatever business I'm at, I ask them, why do you go to work? What's the first answer that comes out of everyone's mouth? To make money. And of course, we go to work because we're going to get an exchange for the time and energy that we're placing at this particular place of employment. But if the only reason to do what you're doing is to make money, that's not going to fulfill you 100%. That's what even causes some people to do certain things that are not ethical, not honest, because their only goal is to make money. But if your goal is to serve or to bring your special, unique talents to the place, and you get rewarded for that, then you can consider yourself to be a success. I am here to bring only what I could bring based on who I know myself to be. And I'm going to get rewarded for that because I'm going to do things in a particular way. Does that make sense?
It does. And I want to open it up also to everybody here. We're talking to Eddie Rodriguez, an inspirational speaker and life coach here in South Florida. If you have a question or comment, raise your hand, please. This is a community meeting, as you know, and I'll pass you the mic. But Eddie, I think that totally makes sense. Now, I wanted to ask you, and I see Sabine just raised her hand, but I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
it's so easy and almost like a default mode for human beings to fall into victim mode, right?
Yeah.
Because it I don't know, there's multiple reasons for that. And it feels good sometimes to be able to say, well, it's not my fault, it's somebody else's, or to say that we don't have the power to make a change, etc. Lots of reasons why we do it. How do we get out of that mode? What specific things? Is that how it's connecting to why maybe the key to getting out of victim mode? How do you see it?
So great question. And you're right. Unfortunately, the majority of folks feel that they're victim to the economy, their boss, their government, whatever circumstances that they feel are out of their control. The one thing that I always like to remind people is, and I learned this early on, in life, there's always two things happening, An event, I got a job, I got laid off, I found a home, I lost a home. Those are all events. And I know this is tough for some people to understand. Events in and of themselves hold no meaning. The other thing that's happening is the meaning that I choose to give whatever is occurring. I am fully empowered to decide how to experience my experience. The issue is that most of us run on fear, whether we're aware of it or not. We run on fear. So the meaning that we give our experiences are usually fear-based. I'm a victim. I may not have control over certain circumstances, but I have control on how I choose to experience my circumstance. I have control as to whether I choose to live my life at the effect or at cause for my experience. I had a great teacher once that said, my initial response to whatever happens in life is, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting gives me a moment, creates space between the event and my reaction. So I don't react, I respond. And it keeps me from labeling the experience or the event as negative or bad initially. So a lot of my work has to do with mindset and helping folks realize and come to understand what is a mindset, which is just a collection of the programs that run in your head. They don't necessarily serve you. They don't necessarily lead you to success, but it's your mindset. And unless you look to the mindset, it's like I tell folks, when I give a handout in class, if I notice that it has a typo, if I get white out and fix the typo, what happens the next time I print that document out? It still has a mistake because I didn't fix it in the programming. So the work is to always get folks to really look within. What is my mindset? What is my belief about this? How do I want to experience this so that it'll empower me or cause me to learn something from this event so that I can use it to better myself? Right. That removes you from victimhood. When you choose to use the event to learn, to get stronger, to grow, it removes victimhood out of the way. And again, you may not be able to control the circumstances, but you can absolutely control your response and your experience of the circumstance. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did. And I want to go to Miss Sabine. I don't see her hand up anymore, but Sabine, did you have a comment or a question for Coach Eddie?
Yes, I had a comment. I wanted to commend him for the process he had to undergo so that he's in position to do what he does now. I personally consider myself to be a servant leader. So which is why in any environment that I'm in, I'm always serving as I lead. I know when to be in authority as well as under authority. And I take that into my massages as well. So when I massage someone, they're in control. I'm happy to be of service to them. I make myself available as a point of contact for God to do whatever healing it is that that individual needs wherever they hurt. So I don't want to say that I'm a healer, but I am a point of contact for healing to begin.
Wow.
With
Yes, you
that
were saying.
said,
Mhm.
I want to invite everyone on the call to experience one of my massages. I like to say that my hands speak for themselves. I let them do the talking. So if anyone's interested, my number is on the chat and I'll be happy to serve you.
Thank you, Miss Sabine. Um,
Thank you.
Eddie, I wanted to ask you, did you
Yes.
want to comment on what she just said?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes. So thank you, Sabine, for sharing. And I'm just curious if she understands. And I love the servant leader role, because a person that considers themselves to be a servant leader may or may not have this understanding, which is a wonderful paradigm to live under, that in giving is that we receive. The more we give, the more that we receive.
Correct.
And when we take on a role of being a servant leader in whatever business we're at, we don't do it out of selfishness or knowing that we're going to, I'm only doing this because I know I'm going to receive, but it's the understanding that it is in giving that we receive. So thank you, Sabine.
Wow. Yes. It's something I've come across many times, even when I was a little kid as a refugee running from war, that people, the generosity of people does miraculous things in life. So I think that I can vouch for that for sure. I'm gonna go to Yasnay next, but I wanted to ask you, Coach Eddie. I wanted to ask you, what was the book? You mentioned the book. I love books. So
Okay.
what was the book
All right.
that triggered your metamorphosis?
Great, thank you. So again, I was working for the phone company and feeling very grateful to have that position, because I was a high school dropout, didn't have any college, and all of a sudden here I am working for the phone company with wonderful benefits, making a great salary, but yet there was no beingness involved. I was just doing what I was supposed to be doing. Somehow a copy of a book that was published 28 years ago, it was on the New York Times bestseller for over 2 years. They made a movie of the book. Since then, the author and I have become very good friends. The title of the book was Conversations with God, book 1, Conversations with God. He and I have become great friends. We've traveled the country lecturing together. I brought him to Miami many times. But here's the shift. When I decided to come from a place of being, I'm the guy that would go into your house and put up the telephone. If there are any young people on the call, we used to have these things called telephone jacks, where we hung up a physical phone in the house. I'm the guy that installed those. I'm the guy that climbed the telephone poles, that worked underground. After I read the book and decided to come from an authentic place of beingness, I would walk into a house. Hi, I'm here to fix your kitchen jack. And as I started to do the work, the owner of the house would come up to me and say, my son was just diagnosed with cancer. And initially that kind of took me aback. And I said a few things. And then a couple of other jobs, I'm sitting there. Would you come upstairs and talk to the lady of the house? And I'm like, sure, of course. She's dying of cancer. And then another house where the little old man told me he just buried his wife of 50 years. And that kept happening over and over. And I kept saying to myself, why are these people telling me these things? It's not, I asked my coworkers, does this happen to you? And they were like, no. And then I realized, oh, I chose to be compassion, understanding, loving, caring while I was doing what I was doing. And everything started to shift. I've had people that have been running a particular business And when they've made the transition to really focus on who they're being, their business model completely changed. I've had people leave their jobs, start new jobs, or start their own business because they really wanted whatever it is that they were doing with their life to reflect who they chose to know themselves as. So the book was Conversations with God, book one.
Wow. Wow. That's very powerful, Eddie.
Well,
Thank you so much for sharing that. I see
well,
Ms. Yasnay.
yes.
Thank you. Ms. Yasnay has her hand up, and then I'll go to Ms. Vanessa.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Let me pull to the side. I should be driving safely.
Yes, be safe, Yasnay, please.
Let me see. No, I really appreciate this conversation in entrepreneurship. It's extremely common to go into that rat race of doing. And this is where I come from, if you will. Like, this is what I learned from my family, from many generations. Work hard, and we did it for so many years in our family business. And I kind of got into community development, started helping other business owners when I was working in the nonprofit, but still with that mindset, until one day one of my clients, that she is a coach, she invited me to a women event, a personal development event. And that was so eye-opening for me. That day, I realized the importance of doing the inner work. And I did that I was like, I invited a lot of my clients to the event. I went one day because I just wanted to support, and I realized I needed this in my life. I was the one that needed to be here. That was back in 2018. And since then, I've gone into a personal development journey that have put me in a role now to give even more. And one thing I learned in this process is that, yes, we're givers and we are servant leaders, but we have to allow ourselves the opportunity to receive. We cannot give from an empty cup.
Absolutely.
If it's that simple. So I'm already like I'm in the world of coaching more than an accountant and a business advisor. I became a coach because I realized financial management is deeper than that. It has a lot to do with your programming, right?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate this subject. I just wanted to invite every entrepreneur in this call. Give, yes, that's part of the process. You are servant by being an entrepreneur and offering your products and your service, but allow the opportunity to receive, whatever that means to you.
Wow.
Okay.
What do you think, Eddie?
Can I follow that up with something real quick? When we are truly giving, and serving, we are giving and serving ourselves first. I always explain to folks, imagine one of those old-fashioned water fountains. Before the water comes out of the top, the water runs through the fountain. So the fountain gets the water first to give it out. When we are giving from an authentic place, we are giving to ourselves. When we are loving someone, if we are truly loving them, love is moving through us. When we are being compassionate and kind, compassion and kindness is moving through us. So we are giving to ourselves first and then to others. And yes, some folks have an issue with receiving, and there has to be time for that as well. Everything is a give and a take, giving and receiving. So great point.
Wow, that's very powerful. I love that analogy, Coach.
Yeah.
That's great. And Yasnay, I got to say something real quick. I've had the honor of like seeing Yasnay go through her journey, and when she told me that she was venturing forth on for her own enterprise, I was like, I had no doubts that she would be successful. I didn't really understand her technical prowess, knowing what she knows. I knew she knew her stuff, but that wasn't the reason I was saying, oh, she's going to be successful. The reason I was saying and was so sure she will be successful was because of this gift that she has of being that giver, letting that love for others and service to others flow through her. And that is the superpower for every small business it's available to all of us. to change that paradigm from what you said, from be, do, have, right? To just
Yeah.
emphasizing the being. It'll transform your small business, right? What do you think, Eddie?
Yeah. So no, when you were speaking about her, if you noticed what you were saying, being successful, I had no doubt that she would be successful. We don't say, oh, she was do successful. She was do successful. It's being. So the paradigm of the winner is be, do, have. And I'm not minimizing doing, because when we begin a business, there's a lot of work to be done. But the gratifying part of working really hard, again, if the work that's being done is making a statement of who you are, if you're being authentic and genuine to yourself, you don't mind when folks find work that they love, that really fulfills them, they don't mind spending 10, 12, 14 hours doing the work, because they're in integrity. It's an authentic expression of who they know themselves to be. I always, at workshops, I ask people, who are you? And they say, oh, I'm an attorney, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher. And I said, no, you do the thing called practice law. You do the thing called teaching, and you do the thing called practice medicine. But who are you being while you're practicing law? Who are you being while you're teaching? Are you being an educator? Or are you just teaching material? Who are you being while you're doing what you're doing? I've found that that's one of the most important shifts that occur for people. Is this thing that I'm currently doing an accurate representation of who I am in the world? And
Right.
that's huge for some folks. It shifts everything for them. They may not do anything different, when in terms of doing this, but who they're bringing to the table while they're doing that completely shifts for them.
And what shifts also, what I found is the results don't shift incrementally, Eddie. They shift exponentially.
Yeah.
Right. The impact is not a little bit better result, a little bit better experience, but tremendously better experience. Right. So that's the
Yeah.
great opportunity in having that shift in mindset. I'm gonna go next to Miss Sabine, and then Ken. I think Miss Vanessa, I think, dropped off. Hopefully she'll join us again, because she's another amazing giver. Miss Sabine, you had another comment or question?
Yeah, it was a comment, because what he said about when he initially started working and he changed his mindset, whatever environment he would go into, that people would come to him. This happens to me all the time. Like, I get people who in one breath tell me something that no one knows about them, only because of who I am. And I recognize that it is God at work in me. And I do make myself available to be that extension of him on the earth. So I recognize that it is a privilege and an honor, which is why I consider myself the servant in the situation.
Right.
Wonderful.
And yes, that's powerful. Eddie, did you want to comment?
I wholeheartedly agree with her. We choose, so as an interfaith minister, some folks, refer to God as God, some refer, the universe, force, love. I ask folks sometimes to consider, if you are representing someone while you're doing what you're doing, who or what are you representing? Some folks that I work with are atheists. And I say, okay, what are you representing? Are you representing honesty, integrity, love, humanity? Then your beingness should reflect in what you do and how you do what you do. So I agree with Sabine and her.
Wow. Miss Vanessa's back. So Miss Vanessa, we'll go next to her and then to Ken.
Sorry, I was never gone. I just
Oh,
clicked
okay. I'm
the
sorry.
button.
There's a lot of squares. I lost track of you.
It's all right. I could be in this conversation all day, and you are just speaking my language, and I am just like basking in this because it's going to set me up for the weekend. But you said something earlier that I would love for you to kind of go back and go a little deeper on
Okay.
when you were talking about giving, because personally, I believe your business can't grow beyond the level that you're at, and that giving is like the biggest key to being a successful entrepreneur. You look at like people who've had just huge success without the failures, and they're enormous givers. And a lot of times people will say, especially in the small business arena, like, I can't afford to give. And I think sometimes people think of that as always in a financial term. And I believe everybody can give something at all times. We all have something to give. And sometimes the smallest gifts can be the greatest. But I think it's a missing key because we don't talk about that in business school. We don't really have those conversations, and so people miss out on that tremendous benefit. So I'd love if you could expand on what you were saying earlier about how giving and business and success and all that links together.
So great. So most, and you're correct, most folks will say, I can't give, or I have nothing to give, which is a mindset. And really not true, but it feels true for them because of their mindset. But we can give of our time, of our talent, of our treasure. There is always something to give. When you give, whether it's money, whether you volunteer your time, whether you volunteer by just maybe coaching, you're making a statement that I have to give. And when you give and you make the statement that I have to give, surprisingly, the universe rewards you with more, because you're making the statement by giving that you have to give. And most people, like you said, I don't have enough money, I don't have time, I don't have this. Those are all mindsets. Has anyone ever read the book, The Four Agreements? If you haven't read The Four Agreements, read The Four Agreements. Everything that we currently believe about ourselves, about life, about others, about work, every belief that we hold is based on an agreement that at some point in time, we agreed that it was true, whether it was true or not. The issue comes with when we have unchecked beliefs, or even beliefs that don't serve us, we defend those beliefs and we create evidence to justify the belief. Not all of what we believe serves us. And so people that choose to be empowered, to be at cause for their experience, take inventory of what they believe. I oftentimes, when I have a group of people, I'll take $100 bill, throw the $100 bill in the middle of the table, and I'll tell folks, can you have a conversation with the $100 bill? Interview the $100 bill. And most people have all these negative or limiting beliefs around what the $100 bill represents. Or I'll do a workshop and I'll ask folks, can you imagine your company making $1 million this year? And they'll look at me and they'll go, no. And I'm like, it probably won't, because your belief is limiting. And so I believe that human beings are the most magnificent creation on the planet. We are creators. We have this wonderful faculty called imagination, where we can imagine things other than what they currently are. And as parents, we tell our kids to stop daydreaming, which is a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Can you imagine if people like Steve Jobs didn't have an imagination? Or Bill Gates or Elon Musk? Okay, everything that, look around where you're sitting, everything that you can see began in someone's imagination. The problem is that the majority of us use our imagination to imagine the worst case scenario. We imagine lack, we imagine, difficulty, we imagine problems. If you used imagination to get yourself excited and ready for what is possible for you, what's possible for you will most likely come into your awareness. And then you do what needs to be done. But first and foremost, it's using that power of imagination to imagine yourself being the person you would be if you had what you wanted, being the person that you would be if you were running the successful company. Who would you be if you were feeding 200,000 people in Miami and you had enough donations and enough money coming towards your organization? Who would you be? Become that person. Become that person. When I first started to do weddings, and I've married over 1,000 couples, 8 different countries all over the US. When I first became an interfaith minister, I imagined myself to be who I would be if I was spreading message of love and commitment and harmony all around the world, just using the power of imagination. And then I stepped back and watched people. Hey, would you come to Argentina? Would you come to Canada? Would you come to Colombia? And so imagine if every entrepreneur that's on this call would imagine their business at the next level. Who would you be? How would you feel? How would you walk? Because when we raise our beingness and our sense of knowing who we could possibly become, everything has to then climb to where we're at. Everything has to, our presence of believing what's possible. I always ask small business owners, so what's possible for your business? What's possible? When I work, a lot of my work is with relationships, with couples. What's possible for your marriage? What is possible? A lot of folks kind of think small. No, think big. What is, when can you imagine when someone, when Mrs. Fields said, I'm gonna sell chocolate chip cookies. People were like, really? Chocolate chip cookies? There was a time when you would go to every mall and there was a Mrs. Fields, you know, or Famous Amos with cookies. What is possible for you and your company and your organization? And then if you can answer that, then ask yourself, who would I be if I was running this company, this organization? Who would I be? And from that place of beingness, you begin to draw to yourself the people, the experiences that will justify your new state of being.
Wow, very powerful, Eddie. Thank you so much for that, and thank you, Vanessa, for that great question. Coach Eddie, we're at 10:59. I see 3 hands raised. Do we have time to reach out to them? Okay,
Yeah.
great. So next up is Mr. Ken, another great giver. Ken, happy Friday.
Hey, Danilo, happy Friday. So where this brings me, this conversation, is when I hear people talk about work-life balance, this is what it brings me to. And I think that's a struggle, I know, for a lot of people. The idea of what is my work, what is my life, how do I balance them, how does it all fit together? And I think if one takes on the concept that, you know, Eddie is putting out there, that I'm a being rather than a doing, that there is very little conflict, that work and life come into a balance naturally. That if your work is, if you're compartmentalizing your work, then you have that conflict. If you see it, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, oh, now I'm going to be with my family, well, then there's definitely a conflict that can make life really, you have making many more choices than one maybe needs to make. And I think an integration of work and life happens when a person doesn't separate themselves and make their pursuit so separate that it should grow out of, I mean, I see it as growing out of who a person is, right? Your work grows out of who you are versus it's laid on to who you are, right? So anyways, that's kind of my take on some of this.
That's a great point, because most folks walk around very fragmented, or what Don Miguel Ruiz calls wearing social masks. This is who I need to be at work. This is who I need to be with my family. This is who I need to be with my friends. And the work balance question comes in, and conflict occurs because we are human beings. And when we live our lives as if we were human doings, of course, there's a conflict, because we're not being true to who we are. We're not being authentic. But if we approach whatever we do, whatever we're doing, from this is an expression of who I am, then balance naturally occurs, because I am coming from who I truly am, which is a human being doing this. And when one of the things that happens when folks make that shift is the person that spent 16 hours in the office doing what they think they need to be doing in order to have and be, while leaving their family at home or waiting for the weekend for those 2 days to spend time with their families, that person automatically thinks, okay, if I'm doing something as a natural expression of who I know myself to be, who am I first and foremost? Who am I? I ask folks all the time, what's the number one most important thing to you? Family. Okay, then I ask them, what do you dedicate most of your energy and attention to? Family is usually number 5. It's work. Oh, but you don't understand. I have to work in order to, and I bet, and we've seen this before, when you ask children who have stuff, do you prefer the stuff, or would you have liked for dad to spend more time at home with you, or mom to spend more time at home with you? So the balance balances itself out if we come from a place of being, knowing that whatever we're doing is an expression of who we're being, since we're a human being, it works itself out. So that was a great point to bring up.
Thank you so much for that, both of you. Next up is Miss Melissa Bennett. Miss Melissa, happy Friday.
Hello.
Hello.
I just wanted to thank you so much for sharing. I think everyone resonated so much with what you have to say. And I'm actually studying myself metaphysics and astrology because I have a spiritual based business.
Okay.
So yeah, I just want to thank you. And
You're welcome.
I'm looking for your contact information because I would like to talk to you on a personal note about certain things that I'm going through.
Okay, I put it there in the chat somewhere.
Okay.
Eddie at eddierodriguez.com.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Miss Melissa. Next up is Miss Donna. Happy Friday, Miss Donna. Welcome to the Morning Huddle.
Happy Friday to you all. Thank you for accepting me. My name is Donna Rose. My company is Servant Delights. We're a fresh juice company owned by my husband and myself. We're a family-based business, and we pretty much get people to drink what they don't normally eat. So I thank you so much for this, because in business, I hear a lot of, don't give away your products. Don't, it costs and so on and so forth. Well, I'm a giver. And because it's a juice company, I've always tried to figure a way that I could give in that respect. And so a couple of examples, I had a dad come to my table one day. He had 6 sons, Black man, 6 sons. And he wanted to buy juices, but he couldn't afford for all 6. So he was going to buy 3 and told me to give him 2 straws that they can share. And he told them, okay, you all decide, 2 of you what drinks you're going to share, and 2 of you will get 1 cup. And I thought to myself, and I actually said to him, I said, Dad, I would be upset if I'm getting somebody else's backwash and they may drink more than me, if I'm not a fast drinker. So I told him, go ahead, pay for the 3, and I'll give you the other 3. So each of the children had their own cups. And he was in awe. After they got their drinks, they were all happy, they walk away. I called him and I said, you know what, because you show up, because you're present, and because you tried to make it happen, I'm going to give you my largest cup for free. So I gave him the cup and he stood there like he's in amazement. Nobody's ever done this, da 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 da. And I got chills because I couldn't believe that he doesn't receive, you know, because people really don't give. Would you believe that for the rest of the night, that man may have brought 15 customers to me?
Wow.
I believe it.
Just strangers, just random people bringing them, buy from her, come get your juice here, come get your juice. I wasn't even looking at that part. So it goes back to saying that I, you know, when they mentioned don't give your products, I'm not a part of that committee. You get what I'm saying? Because there are people out there that really can't, and they would love to be able to experience your business. And if that's the way to experience it, from him one, I got 15 additional customers.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Wow, that's a powerful story.
Yeah.
So I'm making a last call, Eddie, for any comments or questions for amazing coach Eddie. This is your last chance. Raise your hand.
Can I
I'll wait
follow
for-
up on what she shared?
Absolutely, Eddie. Yes, please.
Okay. So when she explained that, you know, some folks don't give, even if they see a need, two things I learned. One personally from Neil Donald Walsh, who's the author of Conversations with God. The other I learned from the Dalai Lama, was, and this, I would do this with my classes. When my office was on Miracle Mile, I'd send the students out and onto the mile and to just sit down at a bench and just look at people, and for everyone that walked by to focus on one person and just say to themselves quietly, just like me, that person has someone they love. Just like me, that person might be experiencing fear. Just like me, that person wants to feed their family. Just like me. And then Neil, the author of Conversations with God, who was homeless at a time before he wrote his book, whenever he says, whenever you see someone in need, say to yourself, there, but for the grace of God, go I. Because I happen to follow the philosophy that we are all one. And what I do for you, I do for myself. What I fail to do for you, I fail to do for myself. And when we come from that genuine place of giving, I am giving, making a statement that I am abundant, you will receive in one way, shape, or form. If the giving is genuine, you will receive.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that is amazing. It deserves a clap.
Okay.
Next up is Mr. Shivas. Happy Friday, Shivas.
Hi everyone. It's good to be in on this type of call because it's a real positive type of situation, and you know, I'm definitely into it, especially doing with the book challenge. And Coach Eddie, it's just everything on point with everything that you've been saying, and I'm just encouraged and empowered, working in faith and ministry as well. I think this is necessary for all business owners, whether they believe in God or not. We all need faith in something, and we all got to know that we have to draw from a power outside of ourselves. So if we can take that approach to our life, and all the things that you talked about on today, I came in a little late, but all the things that you talked about on today, we can do better off with being able to give and be able to receive. I always tell people, if you make a fist, you can't receive and you can't give, but once you open that hand up, you're able to receive. You're also able to give, and that's going to be all those elements that's going to help you grow as an individual as well as in your business.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great point. Great point, Shivas. Thank you. Coach Eddie, you wanted to add anything?
I agree. If you hoard and just hang on to everything you have, you might be holding on to some stuff, but there's no way that you can receive more. But if you have the understanding that it is in giving when we receive, then it's a natural flow that occurs.
Right. Absolutely. Next up is Miss Teresa Brooks. Miss Teresa, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, everyone. And oh my God, I'm just so overwhelmed. Thank you so much again, Danilo, for this platform and bringing such amazing people. And to Mr. Rodriguez, I could listen to you all day. I wish you have some motivational tapes or something. You got to have something, because I could listen to this all day. But I just wanted to say it's definitely important to give also, and of yourself, your time, your talents, and everything, as the words say, because I'm actually going through something right now. My sister recently came from New York and she's in the hospital, and it's like God is allowing me to be the only one that can actually care for her. And after I leave work with the children, and it's a lot, I find myself rushing out the Baptist hospital, checking in on her and everything. But I'm just like, God has given me such the ability to do it. I don't feel overwhelmed or anything. So, and I'm always giving to someone, to somebody in some type of way all the time. So I just wanted to say this is very good, and I could listen to this all day. And thank you so much, Danilo, and thank you, Mr. Rodriguez.
My pleasure. You're welcome.
Thank you, Miss Teresa.
You're
And
welcome.
how about those tapes, Mr. Coach Eddie?
No tapes yet.
No, yeah. Okay, yet
No
was the
tapes
operative
yet.
word, y'all. Y'all heard
Yeah.
it.
No tapes
Okay.
yet.
Alrighty. Next up is Ms. Yasnay.
Really quickly, this call has been for me so awakening, because for many years I've been doing the inner work, right? I have the skills, the toolbox, the tools in my toolbox to do the coaching. But people naturally look for me to be the mentor and the business advisor.
Mhm.
So I've done the coaching work one-on-one with some of my clients. They've seen amazing transformation. But today has been that awakening for me to say, you know what? That coaching me needs to come to the world. It needs to show up more, and it will show up. Those mentoring calls that we're going to have in our community that we have scheduled, the next one is next week. You're going to see the coach there. And I already have prepared the mentoring calls to have breakout rooms. And yes, we're going to provide mentoring. You're going to learn QuickBooks, you're going to get Profit First, you're going to get clock working. Everything is going to be part of it. But Yasnai in those calls is going to show up as a coach. So I'm just enlightened to be inspired to do that. And finally, it was about time. So thank you.
You're welcome. The one interesting thing that I tell people is just imagine, if you will, although I did sound a little bit like Rod Sterling there, every possible outcome for your life already exists in potential. There's a CD that says my life for everybody playing in the universal CD player. Every track is a possible outcome for your life. So there's a track that already says, Yasnai, coach. Now, how do you play that track? You choose it. How do you choose it? By imagining who you would be if you were coaching. Who would you be? How would you feel? One of my teachers said, whatever it is that you want to bring forth, create, work on in your life, if you want to reach success, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. If I was coaching people, what would that feel like? What would that feel like to stand there and know that I'm coaching and helping people transform their lives? And then feel it and step into that, because the you that does that already exists in potential. Very, very quickly, day before yesterday, I did one of my aunt's funerals. And whenever I gather with people at a graveyard, I ask the folks in attendance, and this comes from Les Brown, not from me, but I ask the folks in attendance, what is buried here, people? And most people will look at me and say, bodies, ashes, skeletons. If they're children, they'll say skeletons. I'm like, yes, that's all buried here. But just get quiet and look a little deeper. If you look at it a little deeper, you will see businesses that were never started buried here. You will see books that were never written buried here, trips that were never taken, relationships that were never pursued, songs that were never sung, because the sad truth is that most people take their dreams to the grave because they're afraid. Fear is the #1 killer of dreams. So when you die, what's going to be buried at the cemetery? Just your body? Or are there going to be businesses, trips, songs, relationships also buried because you were afraid? Knowing that all the while you were walking the planet, the you that you imagined yourself to be, the you that you wanted to be, already existed in potential. All you had to do was choose her, choose him, and show up as that person. So great going, Coach.
Wow. Wow.
Thank
wow,
you.
wow.
You're welcome.
I mean,
Thank you.
I don't think we need to say anything more because you just said it all, Mr. Coach Eddie. Let's give him a big round of applause, everyone. This has been tremendous. I can tell you from the heart, Coach Eddie, that this has been powerful for me. I hope it's been powerful for everybody here because, like I wrote in my newsletter, you guys are all heroes and we're always trying to be better heroes and get those things that are in your system out into the world, right? Because you all want to bless the world with your voice, with your products and services. You're serving our community. And so, Coach Eddie, thank you so much. How can we connect with you? What's the best way to connect with you for those of you, for those of us who may want to reach out to you and connect with your business?
Email eddie@eddierodriguez.com.
Real easy. Eddie, EDDIE at Eddie Rodriguez with a Z at the end .com. And you can visit his website as well and check him out. Coach Eddie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Again, another round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody who's joined us today. As you saw, you did it again. You made this huddle great. I can't do it by myself. We had Coach Eddie helping out today, and all of you being here means the world. And this is what makes the morning huddle strong and a great resource. I cannot do it alone. I'll take the lead, but you guys are the ones that are helping me build this. So thank you all so much for supporting it and being active when we're on it. And we'll do it again next Friday. We have, guess who? We have the federal government, the Securities and Exchange Commission is going to be with us here on the Morning Huddle. And you may ask, what do they have to offer small businesses? Well, guess what? You'll have to stay tuned for that next Friday. You won't want to miss that either. So thank you all so much, and we'll do it again next Friday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.